Football, as we know it today, is the world's most popular sport. But its story is far older, far more chaotic, and far more human than most people realize. Before stadiums, before cameras, before rules, there was simply a ball and the natural instinct to kick it. Across continents and across centuries, people have been chasing, passing, and fighting over a ball. This is the story of how those ancient instincts evolved into the modern global game we call football. Our journey begins in ancient China. Around 2,300 years ago, soldiers of the Han Dynasty trained using a game called Cuju. A leather ball filled with feathers was kicked toward a small net. It required balance, precision, and teamwork. Cuju wasn't just entertainment, it was military training. Later, the game grew in popularity and even reached the imperial courts, where nobles played it as a refined sport. Today, FIFA officially recognizes Cuju as the earliest recorded form of football, at the same time, in the Mediterranean world. The Greeks played Episkaros, and the Romans adapted it into a more aggressive game called Harpastum. These games were physical, chaotic, and at times brutal. Players tackled, shoved, fought for the ball, and matches turned into displays of strength and courage. Though different from modern football, these ancient games showed the same human fascination, the challenge of controlling a ball under intense pressure. Centuries later, medieval Europe produced one of the most bizarre chapters in football's evolution: mob football. Imagine hundreds of villagers chasing a ball through narrow streets, running over fields, splashing through rivers, crashing into market stalls and doorways, all trying to push the ball to the neighboring village's goal. There were no referees, no standard rules, and often no limits. Games caused injuries, broken windows, damaged shops, so much so that several English kings tried to ban the sport. But the people loved it too deeply, and every ban failed. By the 1800s, the Industrial Revolution reshaped daily life. Cities grew, factories expanded, and the working class needed recreation. Schools and universities adopted versions of the old folk games, but each school had its own rules. Some allowed handling the ball, others absolutely forbade it. Some encouraged dribbling, while others promoted kicking. This confusion made it nearly impossible for different schools to play each other fairly. Football was popular, but it lacked structure, so, in 1863, a historic meeting was held at the Freemasons' Tavern in London. Representatives from various clubs gathered to finally unify the rules. They formed the Football Association, the FA. One decision changed everything. The ball could no longer be carried by hand. This single rule separated football from rugby forever. From that moment on, the game we recognize today officially began. With clear rules established, clubs multiplied. Notts County, Sheffield FC, Aston Villa, Everton, and many more became pillars of the sport. Cities rallied around their teams. Factories, railways, and ports formed workplace clubs, and the modern idea of supporting a local team was born. Football was becoming not just a pastime, but a community identity. As the British Empire expanded and global trade increased, sailors, merchants, and engineers carried football with them. In Argentina, Brazil, Africa, the Middle East, India, people quickly embraced the new game. What made football special was its simplicity. A ball, a bit of space, and a few friends were enough to play. The sport took root everywhere, often blending with local culture and style. With football spreading worldwide, the need for an international governing body became clear. So in 1904, 7 nations met in Paris and created FIFA. Ironically, England, the birthplace of modern football, initially refused to join, but eventually, even they recognized the importance of global cooperation. The stage was set for international tournaments in 1930. Uruguay hosted the first ever FIFA World Cup. Teams traveled by boat across the Atlantic. Thousands of fans filled the brand new Estadio Centenario, and Uruguay beat Argentina 4-2 in the final. It was more than a match. It was proof that football had become a global passion. The World Cup would go on to become the most watched event on Earth. Dark days arrived during World War II. Leagues shut down, players went to war, and stadiums were damaged. Yet football survived. Soldiers organized informal matches behind the lines. One famous story tells of British and German troops playing football during an unofficial Christmas truce in 1914. Even in the most tragic moments of history, football offered a brief moment of humanity. After the war, football helped rebuild hope. The 1950 World Cup in Brazil symbolized rebirth, and it delivered one of the sport's greatest upsets, the Maracanazo. When Uruguay shocked the world by beating Brazil in Rio, the sport was becoming bigger, faster, and more emotional than ever before. Then came 1958. A 17-year-old Brazilian named Pelé changed everything. He played with joy, flair, and elegance. He wasn't just a footballer. He became a global icon, a symbol of creativity and happiness. Pelé's impact stretched far beyond the pitch and helped turn football into a worldwide spectacle. While Pelé shined internationally, European club football was evolving. Real Madrid dominated the early European Cup, winning 5 consecutive titles. Benfica, AC Milan, Inter, and Ajax followed, each bringing their own philosophy and style. The European Cup became the greatest stage for club football, a battlefield for legends. As the game grew, tactics became an art form. Italy introduced Catenaccio, a defensive wall of discipline and calm. The Dutch brought total football, a fluid, intelligent style where every player could take any role. Then Johan Cruyff emerged a thinker, a leader, a genius. His ideas shaped Barcelona, Ajax, and modern football as we know it. In 1986, Diego Maradona delivered a World Cup performance for the ages. In one match, he scored 2 of the most famous goals in history, the hand of God, and just minutes later, the goal of the century, weaving through half of England's team. Maradona was unpredictable, flawed, brilliant, but unquestionably one of the greatest to ever play. By the early 1990s, English football needed modernization. In 1992, the Premier League was formed. Television deals exploded, world-class players arrived, stadiums improved, and marketing transformed football into a global business. The modern era had begun. The 2000s gave us unforgettable talents. Zinedine Zidane, the Brazilian Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, with his joyful samba magic, and dozens of others who shaped a golden era. Football had become entertainment, art, drama, and culture all at once. Then came a rivalry unlike anything before: Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. For over 15 years, they pushed each other to impossible heights, breaking records, winning titles, and defining a generation. One player relied on genius and vision, the other on power and perfection. Together, they wrote the longest chapter of individual dominance in football history. Today, football continues to evolve. VAR technology assists referees, GPS vests track every movement. Data analysts help design tactics. The clubs operate like scientific laboratories. Yet, despite all the change, the essence remains: a ball, 2 goals, and millions of hearts beating in unison. Football is no longer just a game. It is identity, culture, passion, and a language spoken across the planet.